Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's Tour Catch-Up,
Pegula defends her Canada Masters crown,
Popyrin becomes first Aussie to win a Masters since 2003.
and Rafael Nadal announced he's skipping the US Open.
Chris, today is the 13th of August, and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. We are back a day later than usual this week, but for very good reason. Monday finishes for the Canadian Masters saw Jessica Pegula successfully defend her crown, whilst Alexi Popyrin won Australia's first male Masters 1000 title since Lleyton Hewitt 21 years ago. Elsewhere, Rafael Nadal announced that he is skipping the US Open and his next event will be the Laver Cup. Stefanos Tsitsipas ended his coaching relationship with his dad, and we've got the Cincinnati Masters already in full flow. Chris, we're in back-to-back Masters at the moment in the build-up to the US Open. We had the Sunshine Swing earlier in the season, Indian Wells and Miami. I don't think we have an actual nickname for Canada and then Cincinnati.
Ooh, we've talked about this before, haven't we? We've never been able to do it. Or
The
do
double
one
C, the
less the
Canada
not the,
USA.
we talked about
Swing.
Rome and Madrid being something like the rainy double or something like that when the weather was terrible, but we don't have anything for this. I think Kim would maybe have come up with something much better in these moments, but Kim is not with us today, is she, Joel?
No, it's a birthday.
It's her birthday. So, listeners, join us in saying happy birthday to Kim.
Happy birthday, Kim. We're not gonna sing. We're not gonna put you through that torture. But a very happy birthday to you. I hope you're listening to this on your birthday
Holiday,
travels.
yes.
On your birthday travels. We did get a photo from Kim. She had what was it? And it was a very nice Flake 99 ice
Yes,
cream.
Mr. Whippy.
Oh,
That looked particularly
yes.
good. When I said send some pictures of your birthday, all we got was the food she's been eating. So I think she's been enjoying herself.
Yes, but today it is a Joel and Chris special. And as always, we're going to be starting with our irreverent thing, Chris. What has caught your eye this week on the tour?
Well, firstly, I have to do a little bit of an apology because we did say there'd be an Andy Murray episode last week. We're actually going to be putting it out this week. So I thought I'd give us a little bit of our Andy Murray fix today.
Bit of a teaser.
Bit of a teaser because Andy is not only entertaining on social media in his tennis career, also post tennis career, because he updated his Twitter profile. I'm not sure if you saw this, Joel, but he updated it from I play tennis, was what it used to say, to I played tennis, I now play golf, with a picture of a golf course as his header. So he's wasted no time since the Olympics. He has been on the golf course with Dan Evans, but will he be making a shift to professional golf, Joel? Is this what this is?
No, he's coming after Casper Ruud and Rafael Nadal.
I mean, they're very keen on the
Pro-Am Mallorca Open. Andy Murray is coming for it.
Yeah, I mean, Hanchikova is also a very prolific golf player as well. So maybe they'll be playing a bit more on the golf course. But I just thought, wonderful, that now
there's some lovely progression, I feel, with his social media bio. It was very simple. It was in the present tense. Now it's in the past tense. Now he's added another sport.
Very clean.
What is next?
Well, maybe I played tennis. I now play golf. I now coach tennis.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm thinking might be happening.
I now commentate on Wimbledon.
Yeah, I now get paid a lot to commentate on Wimbledon.
Yeah,
we can see.
Yeah. Hopefully, there'll be enough space in his bio in terms of characters to get all of that in. Maybe we'll have to wait and see. But what I enjoyed seeing was Qinwen Zheng. Qinwen Zheng is in Cincinnati, and she put up on her Instagram stories a photo of her in a very interestingly worded, I would say, sweater, because it said on the back, "Medaling isn't for everyone." And
wow,
I thought, oh, this is tasty. And I wonder what Emma Navarro thinks of that.
I love it. I think that is truly wonderful. I think that means that she's on good terms with Donna Vekic and Iga Swiatek, but I'm not sure who else who was in that field. But I just think
the beef is still running strong, isn't it, from the Olympics?
It is. I do think that maybe that wasn't the lesson that Emma Navarro wanted her to learn in terms of
Mm.
not respecting her. But I do think that you have to respect the gold medal. And I think having fun with it and Nike having fun with it definitely shows that she's in that top tier of athletes where they're going to be creating new custom things here and there. Like, I mean, Serena had those t-shirts that said, across her chest, "Are you looking at my
Mm.
titles?" And I think that maybe she's getting her very own sort of
It's it's
iconic wear.
very like pro wrestling, I think, with like kind of slogans or kind of phrases that I feel like they're to kind of, as I say, cause
Mm.
cause arguments or whatever. But yeah, interestingly, actually, just before we move on to talk about the Canada Masters, um China and USA in the Olympics finished on the same number of gold medals. So
Mm.
if Navarro had beaten Qin Wenzheng, which she obviously came very close to doing, she would have done USA a big favor.
Wow. I mean, that's a big statement. Emma
Mm.
Navarro could have done it all, but at the same time, I mean, who would have thought that Iga Swiatek would have also gone out at that stage? So
Very true. Very true.
anything can happen in the Olympics for sure.
Anything can happen. Maybe we've got to get our mitts, I feel like, on that sweater. Let's see if we can we can find it.
I'm not sure that we medaled though.
That's true,
Yeah.
actually.
We did
Maybe
get,
if
didn't we get bronze at some award show, Joel? Maybe we
yeah,
did
maybe
medal.
in
Yeah.
the past, yeah. Maybe
Yes.
we can count that. We can count
Yeah.
that. Right. Let's move on. Let's look at what has happened this week. The Canada Masters. I keep not telling myself, can't call it the Rogers Cup, can't call it the Rogers Cup. It is the National Bank Open, and we're gonna start in Toronto. Jessica Pegula has defended her crown. She defeated Amanda Anisimova in an All-American final, 6-3, 2-6, 6-1. Chris, Jessica Pegula, she has an unbelievable record in Canada. She has become the first player to defend her title there since Martina Hingis back in the season of 1999 to 2000 across those seasons. What is it about Jessica Pegula, Canada, and this part of the year that she just seems to be so invincible at the moment?
She has a great record for sure. I think this time, maybe there's a few notable absences in the
Mm,
draw, actually presented a great opportunity for her. I actually did pick her to win the title. I think when you look at the draw and you look at her game and the conditions, she does play very well in windy
mm,
conditions. She's got a very sort of reliable, solid game, and she hits quite flat, she hits big, and I think she plays quite a controlled and measured way. So when you have obviously a lot of conditions, she said they've had all sorts of things thrown at them this week. It worked out very well for her. But then, having said that, I mean, if it is windy, you don't normally think Anisimova someone who would have a particularly good week there either. So I think it can go one of two ways. I think when it comes to Canada, last year was a very impressive result. I think this year, slightly easier to back it up, given the fact that the Olympics meant a lot of people did pull out, actually.
mm.
And the scheduling, this was the tournaments that did suffer. So, not to take anything away from her, because backing up a tournament and defending a title, as you say, is very hard to do. But given the nature of the draw, I think maybe there's a little asterisk next to this one.
Oh, okay, okay. I mean, yeah, she has an incredible record, 17-2 in main draw matches at the Canada Open. And what I love about this is, do you remember this was when Cotton Eye Joe, the DJ,
Oh, yes.
we had a DJ malfunction on the court. Cotton
Mm.
Eye Joe came on, but since that came on during a Pegula match, she's gone 7-0. That to me is the key statistic.
So, since Cotton Eye Joe 7-0, it's almost like when we had those sort of statistics, which were like since the coffee that was handed to someone
Yes.
on court, they haven't lost any points. So,
Mm.
maybe the secret is to win in Canada, you need to have a malfunction of the
Oh,
audio.
okay.
Or,
Yeah.
I mean, something that I think is listeners might not realize is that every year it swaps the location. So they go
Very true.
between Montreal and Toronto.
Mm.
So although she's defended the title, it's actually not even on the same courts. So it's actually her first title in Toronto, but it's her second Canada Masters
Mm.
title or the National Bank Open.
And we were, I guess, we were in this exact position last year, and we always kind of get hyped about JPEG and her chances of going deep in Grand Slams because her record at Grand Slams just does not really stack up to what she does on the tour. Do you think there's a sense that she has an issue with kind of peaking at the wrong moments, or
Mm.
she's not able yet to peak at the right moments?
Well, from speaking to her previously, like we had the round table in Eastbourne, and she has a very relaxed approach to these things. I
Mm,
don't think that she's kind of kept up at night about that record. I think she literally thinks about it on a match by match basis, on a week by week basis. And I think obviously you can draw the conclusions that she hasn't gone further. But I do think that some players are so much more focused on those major titles. And I think at this point of her career, I think it's more about peaking for that one major rather than reaching the semi-finals every time. I think she'll really be looking at the US Open as a big opportunity for her because she hasn't gone as deep as she would have liked in previous years, especially at the home slam. I don't think it's a case of necessarily the nerves get to her. I think it is a case that in those big moments, some players are so much more inspired and people do
mm,
bring their A game. And sometimes, if you're a Jessica Pegula, where you're a mainstay in the top 10, but
yeah,
you aren't playing top
no.
one tennis, you will
It's
be
just like,
upset more
yeah,
often.
it just feels like it's 7 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 7 out of 10, like every single
And
time. And that,
sometimes it's enough to win.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like obviously here in
I'd give her
Canada,
maybe a 9 out of 10 or an 8 out of
yeah,
10 if
yeah.
she, yeah.
But interestingly, she's spoken about the doubles, and Coco Gauff has also spoken about the doubles. Both of them, for Gauff, I like to call them, a very formidable doubles team, but they have announced they're not going to be at the US Open. They were sort of kind of focusing on with the Olympics in mind, but now
Mm-hmm.
that's over. They're going to put doubles more on the backseat, focus on their singles career. Do you think that's a smart move for Pegula, but also for Coco Gauff?
I think obviously Goff has got that doubles win with Siniakova at Roland Garros. I think that's something she really wanted to do before she maybe made the shift. Pegula is still looking to play some doubles though. So she did play in Toronto. She made it to the quarterfinals. She mixed it up with a different player. She played with, I think she played with Olmos in that one, the Mexican player. So
Mm,
that was a change for her. She obviously still thinks there's benefit to playing the doubles and the singles week by week. We did talk about it last year at the US Open, where she was entered in all three events. She made the
yeah.
final of the mixed doubles, and maybe that was at the detriment of some of the other competitions
Mm.
for her. So I think we have seen it go one of two ways. Sometimes doubles can be the springboard to single success, but sometimes it can also be a case that you can't actually prioritize them both. And as you'd love to say, you've got to be a double specialist sometimes. So I think it's a shame because they did well and didn't get a slam together. So I hope that at some point they come back together because they really do deserve a
Mm.
slam for the way that they played and competed in so many big tournaments, big titles. So that is a shame, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I do really hope Jessie Pegula. I mean, she said that she's going to take it easy on the doubles for the rest of the year, and maybe it is a time to just basically fully embrace, fully commit, and see where that takes you. Because it might take her places she's never been before, i.e., beyond the quarterfinals at a Grand Slam. So we shall see. I mean, another player who made the final, who lost to Jessica Pegula, Chris, Amanda Anisimova. I mean, wow, she is such a she's such an incredible talent. I feel like she's been on the tour for a long, long time. We all are aware of, the mental health struggles she's been through. Her dad passed away and effectively writ off her 2023 season. But to see her come back, make the final here, beat Sabalenka so easily in straight sets as well en route. This was an impressive week for her.
It was so impressive. And there was potentially something that was going through my mind because I was searching for her on some of the challenger lists of some of the lower tournaments, the 125 she was
Mm,
playing. And it kind of felt like maybe her comeback to the tour this year had been a little bit stalled, having had a really good start to the
mm.
season.
I
So
mean, she
it's
didn't make the main draw at Wimbledon. I was looking at her results. She only got to the final qualifying round.
yeah, it definitely has been a tricky one for her. I think getting the time on court has also been quite difficult, and not wanting to maybe travel as much as she has done previously as well. But I mean, coming from a place where I thought we might not see her on a tennis court again, genuinely, when she
Yeah.
talked about the burnout and the mental health struggles, and obviously her dad was so tied to her tennis journey that playing and continuing training without him was understandably so difficult and challenging for her. So for her to come back and to still believe in her game and to really kind of play like this and play this level and reach a final in a tournament level she hasn't done before, I think will hopefully, again, we talk about this a lot, but we'll give her that confidence moving into the US Open. She's back in the top 50. She's going to
Mm.
be in these tournaments week by week. It's not going to be that awful sort of qualifying situation where anything can happen in the qualies and you might not make it to the main draw. But now she's done what, Osaka, for example, hasn't been able to do, get back into the top 50, have that breakthrough
Yeah.
tournament, and play the level that she was able to play before that break.
Yeah, it's funny with Osaka because we sort of felt like she very nearly had that, I guess, breakthrough match against Swiatek at the French Open. I know it
Mm.
didn't necessarily happen, but we thought she was going to kick on. That hasn't necessarily materialized. Already out in qualifying in Cincinnati, so we're just gonna have to wait on that. But I mean, yeah, as you said, Amanda Anisimova, she was outside the top 300 at the start of the year, so to get back to where she is has been incredible, and we'll have to see her and see if she can continue her rise up the rankings. I
Do you
mean,
remember, Joel? I was going to say this when one of the first episodes that I did, I think with maybe it was the first episode we did as a trio was around the US Open,
mm,
and I predicted Anisimova would win it, and it was one of those almost the Samsonova pick
mm.
of Kim. So I'm
I mean,
really
do you think
hoping
she's a top 10? Do you think she's a top 10 player at her best?
she's a top 10 shot maker, I would say. I think when it comes to the movement side of her game, it is a little bit weaker, and I do think there are times when she can go wobble in moments.
Mm,
I think she should have beaten Ash Barty in that semi-final of the French. I think her game when she's playing first strike tennis, I mean, it's almost unplayable in terms of shot makers. I probably would compare her to the very top shot makers in the game, like a Sabalenka. She's hit off the court before. This was not the first time. So whether I think she's a top 10, she's got top 10 talent, but I do think, Jessica Pegula is a prime example of you have to be an all-rounder to maintain that position, or you have to consistently be able to play your top game. So maybe she's more of a Kvitova sort of type of player
mm.
in terms of the shot making. But I mean, there's no denying the talent.
Yeah, definitely. And it was a great week for Americans in Canada because so many made the quarterfinals. Anisimova, Taylor Townsend,
Yep.
Chris, Emma Navarro, Peyton Stearns, JPEG, and then we had Schneider, Samsonova, and Sabalenka. So yeah, quite an interesting mix of nationalities there making the
Mm.
latter stages.
Definitely on the more contentious side of things. But
Mm,
again, lots of great breakthroughs. It provided a great opportunity for players who wouldn't normally get these sorts of opportunities.
yeah.
Reminded me a bit of that Dollarhide sort of run that she had in
Oh
Guadalajara last
yes,
year.
yes.
When you do have a draw that might be a little bit depleted in some of the top ranked players, Taylor Townsend made her first quarterfinal at a 1,000. And then actually she drove to Cincinnati and won 2 rounds of qualifying, is in the main
Mm.
draw there. So
Yeah, she got back
definitely
to the grind straight
she
away, didn't
did. The
she?
Americans are making the most of the opportunity. And I think it was one of the first all American finals that we've had in years as well. So that's obviously very positive for US tennis, having not had the most positive Olympics.
Yes, certainly. And speaking of Caroline Dollarhide, I mean, we had a very surprise winner in the men's tournament. This one was in Montreal, Rublev versus Popyrin in the final, and Alexi Popyrin straight set 6-2, 6-4 over Andrey Rublev. He became the first Aussie since Lleyton Hewitt to triumph at a Masters event. Lleyton Hewitt did that at the Indian Wells tournament 21 years ago, Chris, in 2003. Now, be honest. Did you think Alexi Popyrin was the person to break that record, particularly given how well Alex de Minaur has been playing this season?
I don't think he would probably have been in my top couple of picks from Australia. And that's not
No.
meant in any sort of a negative way. I think there are a few
Mm.
players who've been putting together some quite good form, some quite good runs of form. But I mean, what a result. It's just almost, I mean, he almost couldn't believe it,
I mean,
given the
what a
fact.
run. What a run. I mean, the players he took out, I think he took out three top 10 players en route, saved 3 match points against Grigor Dimitrov. I know people are going to talk about the draw and all the withdrawals, etc., because of the Olympics. But if you look at that run and the way he got to that final and the way he out hit Rublev also to become champion, it was very impressive.
It was really impressive. And I think in that final, having kind of beaten the world number one Yannick Sinner, there was a lot of,
Mm.
well, Rublev made a lot of that moment. in terms of the fact that it was a result that he really needed. He's obviously been struggling on the court and off the court. There's been a lot of focus on the mental health side of his sort of game. He's been asked that question in press and whether he got help. And one thing I thought was quite interesting was actually just a little side note that Marat Safin has been helping him from the mental health side of things. So
Is that right?
yeah, he said that in
Wow.
press. So I think that's quite interesting. I'm not sure he's a qualified
Well,
therapist,
he
but
didn't implode in the final, and I mean, he got off to like the worst start possible. He was like love 40, gave his broken to love, I think. And I was like, oh, it's incoming any moment, the old Rublev implosion. But yeah, maybe he was thinking about Marat Safin, and that's why it didn't happen.
it didn't happen. But yes, I think that I was surprised more by the fact that Rublev wasn't able to kind of impose himself in
Mm,
that final than Popyrin kind of being able to play a pretty decent level because he's beaten him before this year in straight sets in Monte Carlo, a title that
yeah,
obviously
yeah.
Rublev has won before on a surface that isn't Popyrin's top surface. But I mean, this draw was definitely lacking a few big names with the withdrawals, as you
Mm,
say. Of we had Carlos Alcaraz was not playing, Novak Djokovic was not playing, and I believe there are a few other absences of people who are resting after the Olympics. But I mean, this is one of the most surprising results we've seen. I almost you couldn't have picked it.
mm.
And we were
If
discussing this. What is the
yeah.
most surprising Masters winner prior to this, or most recent one in
I
memory?
mean, when I saw the announcement and I was watching the highlights, I was thinking Cam Norrie at Indian
Hmm.
Wells a few years ago.
He was
That
ranked at 21, I believe, at the time.
mm.
So similar in terms of being outside of the top 20
I,
at the
I
time of
think
this
this I
happening.
think this trumps it though because of I say Popyrin's ranking. I know he's had a good season this year. I mean he took Djokovic very close at the start of the year.
Well, a couple of
Uh,
times this
yeah,
year.
Australian Open and then at Wimbledon. Yeah, like I think he's been playing very well, and I think this season to me he's almost kind of brought it all together. I think, we've seen, in the seasons building up, we know that he's got a big serve. We know he's got a massive forehand, but I really think kind of consistency has been his issue and not necessarily been able to pull successive victories together. And that to me is why this run almost came out of nowhere to kind of put all of these wins on the trot against the
Mm.
caliber of opponents he was dealt with. Yeah, it's just not something necessarily I think all like we've seen from Popyrin from previous seasons.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And as the draw wasn't necessarily the strongest, but if you look at the players that he beat to get there, I mean, he didn't really have easy matches. I mean, first round, he had
No.
Machak, which is no easy match at all, given the form that he's been in. And then he had to take out Ben Shelton, Dimitrov, Hurkacz. Um, I think Korda. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not a tough, not an easy feat, I should say, not a tough feat. We just said it was a tough feat, but the only person I could think of who's similar would have been the Borna sort of Chorich result when he was ranked just outside
Ah,
the world's top
yes. Yes.
150. And I think that was 2022 Cincinnati. And he beat a number of good players in that run as well. He beat, I think, Stefanos Tsitsipas in the final. He beat Norrie. He beat Felix. He beat Nadal, and he beat
Mm.
Massetti. So that was obviously a really big result for him as well. But it doesn't happen that often at Masters level, given how hard it is to break through.
No. And it does also keep up the streak this season on the ATP Tour. We have now had six different 1,000 Masters winner in six Masters events on the ATP Tour. What do you make of that? What do you think that says about the rankings, the tour at the moment, the fact that we've had six different winners?
Well, I mean, obviously, it shows there's a lot of depth in the field. When it comes to the slams, it's been a little less inconsistent. I think, obviously, we've seen
Mm,
all the big matches of this year. We've seen quite similar people in those situations, even in the finals, for example. What do I make of that? We're seeing similar winners who've won before. This is the first new winner, so I think maybe that also does kind of take the is the most standout of this because we have seen obviously Alcaraz has won many before, Sin has won many before.
mm,
Um, this is a three-time champion for Tsitsipas in Monte Carlo. Rublev has won another one. So I think if you're looking at the caliber of winners, they're all people who've done it before. But normally we're used to people winning multiple ones or having one more
mm.
dominant force. But it seems like they're all kind of in a tug of war.
Yeah. I feel like it's a sign of things to come. Olympic years, they always throw up. I always feel like it gets to silly season, towards the end of the final major, and maybe we'll get some more surprising results.
I
A
think we
couple
will
of
in Asia, right?
I feel like we must do, but a couple of other points I want to bring up before we go to a break. First of all, Chris, we talked about the American ladies having a very good tournament at the National Bank Open. Well, the rankings now for the men could not be much closer. Taylor Fritz, number 12 in the rankings. Tommy Paul, number 13. Ben Shelton, number 14. And then we've got Sebi Korda, number 15. What do you make of this? Because there's no Americans in the top 10. They're all bunched in between 10 and 15 at the moment. Where do you think this is going to go? Who is going to be the year-end top American? And do you think someone will get back into the top 10?
That is a great question. Obviously, the biggest mover is Seb Korda this year.
Mm. He
He's
stayed injury-free.
He has done. So, I mean, he's been able to move up the rankings an awful lot. Ben Shelton's got a lot of points to defend at the US Open with the semi final that he had last year. In terms of the best tennis that I've seen, it's from Tommy Paul. He's really impressed me. But having said that, he has now gone out in Cincinnati already to Kaboli, who's in great form as well. So that's quite a surprise to me. But Tommy's been playing quite a lot of tennis, obviously that bronze medal as well. So maybe it was just one event too many for him.
Yeah.
But personally, I'd say Tommy Paul is the standout for me this year. But
okay, do you expect him to be top American at the end of the season?
I do, and I do expect him to be top 10 at the end of the season.
Okay. I've got to go Taylor Fritz.
You always go Taylor Fritz.
I'm going to go Taylor Fritz because.
Why ask the question?
Well, I just think he's got such a,
Good
he's
serve.
got a weapon. He's got a big weapon with his serve, which I think Tommy Paul lacks a little bit. And come, as I say, the indoor hard court season when you're gonna want to have a big serve to rely on to get you some free games. That's not going to come as easily for Tommy Paul. So I'm gonna go Taylor Fritz. But
okay, let's see. Only time will tell.
See. Yes. And finally, Stefanos Tsitsipas, Chris. He and his dad Apostolos, their coaching relationship is no more. Stefanos Tsitsipas he savaged his father after losing to Nishikori in Montreal. I'm just going to read some of the lines that he wrote on social media about the relationship. I need and I deserve a coach that listens to me and hears my feedback as a player. My father hasn't been very smart or very good at handling those situations. It's not the first time he has done that. I'm really disappointed at him. I really don't know right now if I'd consider any changes, but I'm really disappointed. Chris, I could go on, but I'm going to leave it there.
Goodness.
Some pretty damning words from Tsitsipas to his dad. I feel like we've been in this situation multiple times before, but this feels definitive.
It does, but then so did the breakup of Tsitsidosa, yes. And then
is this like Rune and Muratoglu?
I mean, it could be. I mean, his father is now back to being his father. Apparently, he'll still be traveling with him, but as his father.
What is that? Is that the same thing? I just can't imagine Apostolos not just being quiet.
He's unable to help himself. From seeing this up close at the Stockholm Open a couple of years ago, it's not conducive to a positive relationship. It's not healthy. And the biggest thing holding back Stefanos Tsitsipas, I think we'll all agree, is the fact that his family plays such a big role in his coaching, in his decision-making. And I think he would benefit from whether it's Mark Philippoussis stepping back in as an interim or trying to find a relationship with someone who can add more things to his game and is much more abreast of what's going on the rest of the tour. I think it's obvious that would be beneficial to him and should have happened many years ago. It's long overdue. We've been saying it for years. And I just hope it's not going to be Petros Tsitsipas.
And do you think he needs a coach, doesn't he? He's not a player who can just go and do this on his own, can he?
He needs a coach, and he needs one who would probably have to try out a few coaches, I think, given the nature of what Tsitsipas is like. He is quite his philosophy behind his decision-making, his thoughts. And I think that you'd need a player who could accommodate that. I'm not sure Ivan Lendl would be the perfect choice. Someone who's very straightforward. I think he needs someone who entertains that side of things and speaks the same language as him. So That's why I think someone maybe he's worked before because it is such a big shift, and maybe you do want someone to guide you through that shift before you find a long-term coach. But I mean, thank goodness, this is what we need. We need to hear it. It
This
needs
is
to
what we
happen
need. This is what needed to happen. We'll see if it has a positive impact
on
on
his
Stefanos
backhand
Tsitsipas
return.
and on his backhand, his block return, just anything on that backhand win, basically. We're going to take a quick break now, though, but do join us in the second half where we will be discussing Rafael Nadal deciding to give the US Open a miss. What is the most impossible record to break in tennis? And we look ahead to the draws and all the action that's taken place so far in Cincinnati. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast, and we're going to move on to the quiz section of the podcast, Chris. And I believe it's not a par for the courts this week; it's a Joel's game.
It is a Joel's game,
but I'm not delivering the Joel's game.
No, first time for
Does
everything.
Does that mean
Joel.
it's Joel's game?
No. Ooh.
Is it Chris's game?
Chris's game, but Joel's playing
Chris's game delivered.
Doesn't quite have the same ring, but actually, we could call it Andy Murray's game because when they were at the Olympics, all sharing an apartment, they did play a very similar game, which was to guess the career high of players, of which Andy Murray was apparently
the best.
Have they
been listening to our podcast?
Well,
we should have copyrighted it.
We should have. We can't prove that they either did or didn't, but we can think that they did. So, listeners, the way that Joel's game works is that we start with a player and then we guess, in this case, Joel is guessing what their career high ranking is. And then that is where we start. That is the benchmark. And then you have to go higher or lower. And we'll be having, I think we normally have 6 rounds or 5 names you have to get after the first round. So do play along at home. It's a higher or lower with career highs. And in true Canadian spirit, it's Canadian themed. So we're doing the career highs of Canadian players, both singles and doubles.
Lovely. Okay.
So we will kick off with a very well-known tennis player. We'll go for Felix Auger-Aliassime.
Oh, that's a great starter. I feel like he was. Oh, has he made top 10? I feel like he has. Only just. I'm going to say 9.
And he has made top 10, but he's gone as high as number 6.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He did have those sort of brilliant run.
Yes, towards like the end of a season, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Couldn't stop winning. Yeah.
Exactly. So someone he's played doubles with an awful lot is Denis Shapovalov. And that's your next name.
Ooh, okay. Denis Shapovalov. This is tough because I feel like he's slowly getting back up there, but he's fallen a little bit from where he was at his peak. But I don't think he got to number 6. Did he get top 10? I'm gonna say lower, and I'm gonna say 12.
It is lower, but he did make it to number 10.
Oh, okay. Okay, so he made top 10. Do you think he will get back to top 10?
I do not.
Yeah,
I think the mentality side of things might hold him back a little bit.
Okay.
And the discipline. But we will remain disciplined on this. You've got 1 point.
Come on.
We are going to move to Milos Raonic.
Oh, okay. I think he must have gone higher because he got to a Grand Slam final and he would have just eaten up ranking points, I'm assuming, on grass courts and indoor hard courts as well, I reckon, towards the end of the season. I'm going to say higher. And I think I want to say he reached top 5, actually. I'm going to say there was a couple of weeks where maybe he got to 4 in the world.
There was definitely a couple of weeks he got to 4 because he made it to number 3.
Ah, okay.
So
close. Not bad.
2 points for yourself. Now we have Bianca Andreescu.
Oh, now this is tough.
It's getting trickier.
That is tough because on one hand, Grand Slam champion, lots of ranking points, but on the other hand, lots of injuries, not a lot of consistency. Would she have gone higher than 3?
Higher, lower, or we should say the same, yes.
I can't see her getting to... I'm not 100% on this. I'm gonna say lower and say six. Oh, I don't know.
It is lower,
Oh,
but it's
thank goodness.
4. So just one place lower.
Wow.
That season,
Wow.
she did pick up a number of other big titles, Indian Wells, as well as the
Mm,
Rogers Cup, but they were her breakout tournaments before she did not play for a while. So that is why her ranking did not go
wow.
even higher than that.
Okay.
Now, here we go. Eugenie Bouchard.
Oh,
This is it's a tough
that's
go, isn't
tough
it? Yeah.
because it at times now it just actually feels quite hard to take Eugenie Bouchard seriously as a tennis player, and you actually forget how good
She was
she was in her
incredible.
peak. And in that,
2024, no,
yeah,
2014, sorry.
yeah, in that season when I remember I was there for it, and it was a big washout. But that final against Kvitova in the at Wimbledon, and I think she got to another final that year.
She made the
She made two.
semi-finals for the first 3 slams of the year and the
Yeah,
final at
yeah,
Wimbledon.
yeah. She had a stellar season, and for that reason, I feel like I'm gonna go. Oh, is that top three caliber, or did she go same? Hmm. I'm gonna say. I feel like the answer is same, but the probability is against me. I'm gonna say well, I'm gonna say higher. Final answer. I think she got to
Higher.
three. Yeah.
Locked in.
Yeah.
I can tell you her career high was number 5.
Ah, so it was lower.
It was lower indeed.
Ah,
So
okay.
unfortunately, you've not
Ah,
completed it. But my final answer, if you did get there, was Gabby Dabrowski's doubles career
oh, that's a
high.
great one. That's a great one. I'm gonna say higher.
It's high. It was number 3. So if
Yeah.
you had got to that point, listeners,
Ah,
and you did get higher for all of that, then well done. Do tell us how you've done. Joel, it was a tricky one this week.
I
You
enjoyed
made
it.
it. You made it quite far through, and the Canadian
Mm.
theme. I think maybe you're more of a specialist than you thought in that area.
Yeah, I do. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I'm more at home. I mean, unsurprisingly so with Joel's game versus Path for the Courts.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
easier. 3 options.
exactly. Listeners, let us know how you get on. Kim as well. Let us know how you get on. Maybe you did better than me. We'll see. We'll see. But let's move on to Tennis Weekly mailbag time. And Natalia got in touch with us on email. Hi, Tennis Weekly. Loved your Olympics episode and your conversation on whether Djokovic has completed tennis. I would like to ask you, which record do you think is the hardest to break in the Open era?
That's a
Mm.
really good question.
Yes, because we said Djokovic had completed tennis, and then I think I said actually there's some records because Connors and Federer have got more titles than him, blah blah blah. But actually, there are some other, arguably more impressive records that I'm almost feel I feel unbreakable.
There are indeed. You have to think that. I mean, the
What for
first one
you,
that comes
Chris?
to
What for
head.
you, Chris? Yeah, unbreakable tennis records.
I mean, it's got to be Nadal's 14 French Opens. I feel like that one is going to be
Ooh,
around for a
yeah.
very long time. Other things that sort of,
Tech.
I mean, I think it's very tricky. The French Open's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And 14 is just it's so
So long.
many.
That's a long time.
And maybe I think potentially there's something in, the sort of season that players have. Maybe there's like a particularly impressive season. If
Yeah.
I'm trying to have a think about like which particular seasons were so impressive, I think maybe
Yeah.
there might be like one in like Novak Djokovic's. I think 2015 season was pretty impressive. I think he had a
Mm.
90
Yes. Oh, the
something.
percent. Yeah. It was
Yeah,
outrageous, wasn't it? Yeah.
outrageous. So there's things like that I think are unbeatable. But then I also think like, if you win it all in a year,
Mm.
that's also
Steffi
something.
Graf.
Oh yeah, exactly. She's not
This,
talked about enough, is she, in these
no,
conversations?
no, I don't think so. The Steffi Graf Golden Slam, 1988, only tennis player to win Olympic gold and all the four Grand Slam titles in singles in the same calendar year. To me, that's heaven. To me that is perfection. That's perfection in the year.
I think that is, I mean, that's next level perfection. I would also throw in Serena and Venus at the Olympics because they have 4 tennis gold medals,
Wow, didn't
and
know that.
they do each. And then there's a silver medal also for Venus. So
Mm,
she is, and I think I saw this being, she's a 5-time Olympic medalist, but I mean, 4 of them are gold. So that is particularly interesting. I don't think anyone's going to win
mm,
3
okay.
Olympic doubles gold medals.
I'm going to throw in one more suggestion, which I also think is incredible and is not talked about enough. Monica Seles, 8 Grand Slams as a teenager.
Ooh,
That is also like I feel like like unbeatable, like unmatchable, unbeatable. I don't
that
even think we're in an era where that's even possible.
I mean, that is genuinely a truly impressive one. But I mean, ultimately, is anyone going to get more slams than Djokovic? I
Mm.
think that's probably the case.
Oh,
We shouldn't
okay.
ignore that because I think the number's only going
Yeah.
to get higher. So maybe
Yeah.
that will be it. But I mean, there's a lot of
There's a
things that,
lot. There's a lot.
yeah.
There's quite a few things. I mean, listeners, let us know. What do you think is the most unbreakable record in tennis, or what's the record you're most impressed by? We'd love to know. But thank you, Natalia, for getting in touch with us. And listeners, if you do have a question for the mailbag, feel free to send it in. But now, Chris, we're going to talk about Rafael Nadal. He has put on his Instagram account that he is not going to be at the US Open. He wrote, "Hi all, writing today is to let you know I have decided not to compete at this year's US Open, a place where I have amazing memories. I will miss those electric and special night sessions in NYC at Ash, but I don't think I would be able to give my 100% this time. Thanks to all my US fans in particular. We'll miss you all and we'll see you another time. Best of luck to all for the always amazing US Open. My next event will be the Laver Cup in Berlin." Okay, a
Mm.
lot to dissect there. What are your immediate reactions to this news? Was it to be expected? Were you surprised? Does this drop any retirement clues?
I wasn't actually surprised by this at all because we actually were there in the room in Boston when he was asked this question, and it was clear that he did not have any decision on whether he was
Mm.
playing at all at that point. I think we all thought it was quite
Do you think he made the
unlikely.
decision after the Olympics? Like
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
going to see how his performance went?
yeah. I think he did not know what he would be doing. The only thing that I would say is that I did hear rumors from the press room that he would be retiring at the Laver Cup a la Federer.
Ooh, okay.
And that was what was being spoken about. But if you read it, if you're into the nuance of what was been written, he does say he will miss you all and see you another time, to his US fans. Whereas at Wimbledon, it was very much a case that he said something a little bit different, which was that he's saddened not to be able to live this year the great atmosphere of that amazing event that will always be in my heart and be with all the British fans that always gave me great support. I will miss you all. That seemed final. That seemed like
Mm.
a goodbye to the British
Yep.
fans and not coming to Wimbledon again. Whereas the fact he mentions seeing them again makes me think there might be potential for him to play the hard court swing going into the French Open before maybe finishing there. So that's if you're into the wording,
Mm.
there might be hope. But based on what I've heard, it looks like the Laver Cup might be it.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. It feels like there's mixed messages, but are we going to see Rafa at 100% again? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so, to be honest. I know it saddens me to say that, and I wish Kim
Kim,
was
this
here
isn't your
to.
section.
Yeah, this is maybe just skip
I
over this,
think she
Kim.
probably
But
would agree, though, in the sense that
mm,
based on what we've seen, his best days are behind him. I don't think it's too much to say that. Obviously, he had an incredible 2022, but injuries and his body have changed. And it's very different from the injuries that we've seen from Novak Djokovic. Um, so, I mean, it's very hard to know. Maybe he doesn't even know, and we're still talking about it.
yes, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens at the Laver Cup. Who knows? Maybe we're on for Rafa Roger Tears 2.0
Ellie
in
Goulding,
Berlin. Yeah, get Ellie or Shakira maybe. I don't know.
Shakira could be
Um,
nice.
we'll see. But let's look at Cincinnati. Our second back-to-back Masters. We've just been in Canada. We're now in Cincinnati. Defending champions Novak Djokovic not here. We do have Coco Gauff though. Let's first of all look at the men's draw. Yannick Sinner is the top seed. Carlos Alcaraz is your second seed. I always remember, Chris, last year, Alcaraz and Djokovic, they had an absolute
Unbelievable.
humdinger in the final, one of the matches of the season. Sadly, we're not going to get that. We could, I guess, get Sinner versus Alcaraz, but where where are your eyes drawn on this draw?
Well, I have got my eyes on Musetti Medvedev being a potential clash. Medvedev is looking very much for a title. He has not won a title this season, which seems
Hmm.
mad considering the fact he's
That
made the
is,
last
yeah,
two finals of hardcourt slams, as well as a semi-final at Wimbledon. Also, have an eye on a very sort of interesting result with Caboli taking out Tommy Paul to see what he can do, another
yeah.
young talent.
And
But
we
also,
we could also get Popyrin versus Alcaraz in round two.
I hadn't even spotted that one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be very interesting. And maybe that would be a bit of a reality check. But
Mm.
this is a stacked draw. We even
Reality
have,
check for Alcaraz.
yeah, exactly. And then we also have, really tough matches like Tsitsipas versus Struff. We've got Runa Berrettini. I mean, it really is, there's nowhere to hide here.
Yeah, it feels a bit stronger than Canada. So yeah, it feels like this is going to be an interesting one, and we'll see how Alcaraz gets on at the bottom of the draw, second seed. Looking at the women's draw as well, we've got Swiatek returning top seed in Cincinnati in the women's draw. Goff is the second seed, Sabalenka three. Yeah, where do you see, where do your eyes take you in this draw? We've also got Rabakina as the fourth seed.
Will
Chinwen
she be
Zheng?
playing? Will Rebecca be playing? I think we're very
Yeah.
to see how Zhang will do as well. Also looking forward to seeing if Paula Badosa can make a bit of a run. It could be interesting to see how she
Yes.
does against Coco Gauff, having won that title in Washington, as well as always interesting to see how Caroline Wozniacki will be turning up because there's also rumors that she might be retiring at the US Open as well. So very, very
Okay.
fascinating to see what might transpire. But for you, Joel, surely all eyes are on Goat Net Bolter.
Yes. Well, Katie Boulter, she had a quite good run in Canada. I think what got to the third round, lost to Sabalenka. No
Indeed.
disgrace there. So very, very good. I'm also looking at Azarenka versus Anisimova in round one. Azarenka is being coached by Greg Rosetsky, I believe, until the at least the end of the US Open, which is quite an interesting partnership.
I'm not even sure how that would turn up. Has he coached before? Who
I,
knows?
Yeah, I've seen him about I say a few grass court events, but mainly focusing on juniors. So yeah, quite an interesting tie up there. I'm just actually a bit sad that Navarro and Chinwen Zheng have been put in. They've been put quite far apart. One's
Mm,
quite high up in the top half. Zheng is in the bottom half. So
yeah.
that's gonna have
Wait
to
for another
wait.
day. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, predictions time. I know we have to give very quick predictions. What are we thinking?
If Alcaraz is on a tennis court at the moment, I'm going to be picking him.
Yeah. Okay. Alcaraz, men's champion, women's champion.
This is
Anisimova to do. Oh
that
no,
I
sorry.
well,
JPEG to do the double.
it's very hard to do the double. Cincinnati conditions. I think in the same way that Goff has gone out early and then she's kind of leapt into form again. I think that coming into the US Open, she's going to rediscover something. So maybe Coco Goff will get it done.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go Sabalenka. Didn't have a good run of it in
It's quite
Canada,
punchy. Both of
but
us have gone a bit
I've
rogue.
heard the court surface is very quick. I think it's going to be very well suited to Sabalenka, just as long as there's no wind. I feel like 1 mile per hour of wind just upsets the Sabalenka game completely. But I'm gonna go Sabalenka and oh, let's go, let's go Zverev. Let's go Zverev for the men's title. Who knows?
We honestly don't know,
We don't know.
listeners.
Although interesting, he's going to be at the Rio Open next year.
He is
Golden
the
Swing.
the top five player at the Golden Swing.
Mm.
So
I
Alcaraz is
didn't
out.
realize this was a thing
It
that
is, yeah.
they just kind of cherry pick someone,
Well, you
pay them a
need,
load of money from
yes.
Europe to come play.
I mean, and a certain Alcaraz's fee may have doubled
Okay.
beyond the 2 million mark at this point.
It's probably understandable, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Zverev gets on in the Golden Swing, but also in Cincinnati. We're going to end our episode there, though, listeners. I hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action to come from the ATP and WTA tours as we head up to the US Open. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms out there. And if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
You can also follow us on social media, or you can email the show. Most of our episodes recently have actually been on YouTube. So do make sure that you subscribe to us on that platform to see all of the video episodes that will be going live. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And all of the handles for those are Tennis Weekly Pod, or just search Tennis Weekly Podcast and they should come up. You can purchase Tennis Weekly merch at etsy.com/shop/Tennis Weekly Podcast. And as always, you can email the show, tennisweeklypod@gmail.com, or check out our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back next week for another tour catch up, looking back on all the action from Cincinnati. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, happy birthday, Kim. Forgot to mention happy birthday,
Kim.
We'll leave it there. But happy birthday, Kim. Chris.
It's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from you. So I got my pronouns and names mixed up there. It's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. It's goodbye from me. And we'll see you again soon.